Welcome to another episode of the I'm F.I.N.E. podcast, where a couple of knuckle-dragging veterans unpack the world of mental health as unprofessionally and informally as possible. I am Eric Peterson.
And I'm Brad Stosiek.
And today's episode is all about being a non-combat veteran. We are going to talk about the issues veterans who have not experienced combat deal with, to include imposter syndrome, adjustment disorder, and survivor's guilt. We're also going to talk about some healthy ways to reframe self-worth, the importance of diverse military roles, and how to find purpose post-service. And we are going to do that today with our friends, veterans, and members of the FAT family, Robin Senesac and Adrienne MacQueen. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey as we do our best to take you from being freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional to truly being fine about being a non-combat veteran.
Welcome to the I'm F.I.N.E. podcast with your freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional hosts, Eric Peterson and Brad Stosiek.
Hey guys.
Hey.
How's it going?
Good.
So I've been waiting to say something, but you guys are wearing the same shirt.
Yeah, we are.
And it says Blind Man and Robin.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You want to guess which one I am?
Robin.
Yes.
Absolutely.
When did you guys make these shirts?
I think it was around Christmas time I got it, right?
Yeah, it was after we went on a crisis call together.
Yeah.
And
Really?
And
Yeah.
afterwards, I was like, dude, we're like Batman and Robin, except Blind Man and Robin. And then,
So I was like, I come home that day. I said, it's getting cool. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, well, this is what me and Brad went through. She's like, that's funny. Well, my sister-in-law makes shirts. So for Christmas, she had 2 shirts made with Blind Man and Robin in comic book font.
Yep.
So.
Gotta do it. I think I saw you guys wearing that the first time. Well, the only other time I saw you guys wearing it together was when we did that mental health first aid training.
Yep.
You guys both showed
Yeah.
up wearing the same shirts, and I was like, oh my God, that's fucking great.
yep.
I'm glad you guys are here. Robin's good to see you again. Adrienne, thank you for being on here today.
Thanks for
I
having
really
me.
appreciate that. Absolutely. And I appreciate it because this is something that we talked about a few times. Brad and I got the idea when we were talking about it before, just because since starting Project Headspace and Timing, I have learned so much about the veteran community because I only knew my little piece of it, right? And I learned more about female veterans. I learned more about veterans in non-combat roles. I learned and one of the first veterans that I came across that I really had deep discussions about this with was Robin, was you. And so to be able to talk about this, as I started looking into it more and saw what the numbers were, and we'll get to that in a little bit, about the percentage of veterans that are veterans that have not seen combat, pretty big fucking percentage, right? So it's like, how many other veterans are out there that feel that way? And since you guys have come into FAT and started doing things with other veterans, I know you guys have met other veterans that felt the same way. I've sent veterans specifically to Robin who were having issues, feeling like they didn't do enough, and knowing that you could use your experience to also help others, you know what I mean? That's a beautiful thing. It's also just, all in all, I just thought it was a really important thing to talk about. So I appreciate you guys hopping on here.
Appreciate you giving us this opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad, you want to read the sources, my friend?
Yeah. The sources for today's episode are pewresearch.org.
You.
psychologytoday.org, the DSM-5 TR, and the National Center for Biotechnology Information.
Thank you, sir. So before we get any further, would you both mind taking a couple of minutes to talk about what your military experience was like in and then getting out?
Yeah, I joined in August of 2000, thinking oh, we're fine, nothing bad could happen.
August of 2000?
Yes.
What branch?
Air Force.
Okay.
So then I thought I was going to be a photographer. That's what they told me. But I get there and reality is I'm a cook. So that was a hard day.
What? Your recruiter lied to you?
No.
Right.
In the Air Force too?
Never.
Yeah, that's. So I remember I called my mom that day, and all I could get out was I'm a cook, and then I just cried the rest of my 5 minutes I got to call.
Oh my God. That was your first
So yeah, but I learned to cook large quantities of food.
Yeah.
And so I was in Virginia for 4 years, my whole 4 years. I did deploy to Qatar or Qatar, depending on who you are. And I was a librarian there. So that was kind of a nice, different experience to get to see people that come in and just needed to relax and like blow off some steam. And I was there to like sit and talk to people and like get to know everyone's point of view of like, oh, I'm not, you know what I mean? And a lot of them would come and say like, man, we love the cooks. Like they're the best food.
Yeah.
Because it was all the branches were there.
Just
so
eating
like,
MREs all the time.
Air
Like, oh my
Force
God.
food, we come here for that. Like
First food, for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, so that experience kind of helped lift me up, of like this is not just a grunt, work. But I have had people tell me like, you were just a cook. And when I talked to them about my military service, so that has been like a kind of in the back of my head, like you were saying, of like I didn't do enough.
For sure. I mean, especially you said you served 4 years, 4 years active in the Air Force, and then you get out and people immediately take you're in like 4 years of your life, and then they just package it up into like one question or statement and make you feel terrible and try to make you feel bad for like serving and doing whatever your job was for 4 years, and they just try to summarize those 4 years in one question or statement. That's bullshit.
Yeah,
that's terrible. Thank you for sharing that. Robin, what about you?
I joined I joined the National Guard at first in 91. 17 years old, signed the line, turned 18 in basic training.
Yeah.
Did stints with National Guard, then I went active, and then a fallout there. I had to come back to the Guard. And that whole time it was training. I mean, I went all over the world training and did all that, trained, and like rock and roll, good to go. I got jungle training. I got trained in Germany and Britain and all these places, and nothing. Like, got out in 01, and I'm like, now what do I do?
And you got out. What was your MOS?
11 Bravo. So I was an infantry soldier, ready to rock and roll. That's the only thing I ever knew. Growing up, I'm like, I passed my ASVAB. They're like, you can do pretty much anything you want besides intelligence. We know this because I'm an 11 Bravo dude,
Right,
So they're like, well, I said I want 11 Bravo. They're like, no, you can do something. I'm like, no, I want 11 Bravo. They're like, okay, kid.
Yeah.
So I signed, and then I did all my training, did everything. Got out in 01, February of 01, and got married in March, and then September 11th happened. And that's where the battle began, because it was like, I'm going back, and my wife's like, no, you're not. You're a freshly married man. And at that time, I had been, while I was in the civilian world, became a firefighter, EMT, truck driver, still 11 Bravo qualified. So the ink wouldn't have been dry, and I'd have been gone,
Right.
She's like, nope, can't do it. So I'm like, okay, few, not arguments, but debate, a lot of debate between me and her.
Yeah.
And then in 03, and I can't remember what else kicked off. Something else kicked off in 03, and I can't remember what that instance was. And I'm like, no, I'm going back. I had just had a new baby girl.
Yeah.
So she's like, no, you're not. You're not going back.
Right.
So it took a lot, and I've struggled with that for years.
I've had other guys tell me similar type things after you talked about that. And it's hard because it's like, so you joined the infantry.
Yeah.
So you signed up just assuming like some shit's going to go down and like that's going to be your job.
Yeah.
You served 10 years
Yeah.
between the Guard and Army.
Yeah.
So you put your fucking time in.
Yeah.
Nothing was going on at the time.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I was about as squared away as a soup sandwich.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I was a soldier, So
Soup sandwich.
There it
Yeah,
is.
buddy.
it's one of my very favorite things, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ate up like a soup sandwich. It's my thing, man.
I like that. I also like bag of dicks.
Yeah,
Bag of dicks.
Because just the thought of it is just like just a bag of dicks.
But no, like I said, so it's not like I was a squared away dude, but I mean, I did my job and did it well.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the off times that I was,
Well, but then you're in for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then you get out 2001, early 2001, then September 11th happens.
Yeah.
And like you said, you wanted to get back in. You just got married at the time.
Yep.
Wife, understandably so, was like, hey, like that wasn't part of the plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you guys have been married for how long now?
20, let's see,
It was 2001. So
23, 24 years.
yeah. So it seems like you made
Just got past 24 years. There we go.
yeah. So it seems like you made a pretty good decision. there.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
probably.
Like
You
it seems like it worked out for you.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, but the feelings that you dealt with after that, like you and I talked a lot, I think, before you really started talking to me about how you were in the military. And I think that was because we were in the same unit.
Yep.
And you brought that up first.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Then you started talking to me about it like a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah.
You weren't really a part of FAT. You were just like supporting it and everything like that. And then like within the past like year or so, kind of you both started getting involved.
Probably
you know?
going on probably almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
But I did not use the word veteran
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, "Oh, you served?" Yeah, this nothing. They're like, "No, you like nah, I was a veteran." It's like, "What do you mean you're not a veteran?"
Right.
Like, didn't serve. They're like, "You spent 10 years in."
Right.
I'm like, "No, you don't understand."
Right.
And I justified that. It's like,
Yeah.
There was a long period of time I didn't even tell anybody
Really?
or
yeah.
certain people, and I'm like, I don't even want to bring this up because he looks like he's gonna be like, oh, what'd you do? Like, we're
right? Yeah.
and I'm gonna be like, I was a cook, and they're just gonna belittle or
Yeah.
minimize it. Yeah,
I told people I cooked for the Marines when they asked if I served. And I was like, no, I was just a cook for the people who served.
Right. I
Just
could,
a
yeah,
cook,
totally
yeah.
understand that. You know?
Yeah.
But, I see all these guys, they got their military ink and tattoos are a big part of my life. And I'm
Right.
like, I got my firefighter one, but to this day have not gotten any military ink.
Is it because you feel like you did not earn it? That's so not fair. I know. And then, so I've talked about this a few times before. Like, the combat that I saw wasn't like the combat in TV. I was never in any super long firefights that like lasted more than, 5-10 minutes at most. Never did any of that crazy house to house shit. And like, I had a bit of that when I came home, in that I felt like I didn't see enough. I felt like I didn't do enough. And that guilt, because in my mind, whenever I thought about veterans or the military or whatever, you think about like Jocko Willink and David Goggins and all these special forces, fucking house to house crazy shit. But that's such a small percentage of what like the military experience is. And the only reason why the military works is because there's a billion fucking jobs and all of these things that need to get done. So the infantry grunts can go be infantry grunts, or so the special forces guys can operate. Like it's a whole thing. You need everybody to be a part of it. And it's not fair for you to feel that way about your service. And so when I got home, and I'll never forget, the first guy, like I always was kind of shitting on myself about being in the National Guard, because people always talk shit about the National Guard.
Weekend warriors.
Right, weekend warriors. Fuck yeah. Even though when I was deployed, and like almost everybody on my base was in the National Guard. And I'm like, that's weird. Like all these National Guardsmen deployed internationally. Like that's not in the fucking name. But and I believe Illinois National Guard at least is on like a 4-year rotation on going overseas and stuff. But I always had that chip on my shoulder because I was in the Guard. And when I turned 20, I joined at 17 too, just like you. And when I got out of high school, I found out that there was a deployment that would be coming up in the next year or two. So I was like, okay. I just kind of stuck around for a while. And then after the deployment, I was like, yeah, I'm done with this shit. And then I got out. So I didn't go active.
Right.
And so when I first came back, I had a chip on my shoulder about it. And the first guy that said something to me about it was a Marine, Dave Allen, who's the chair of the Veterans Assistance Commission. He's in the Marine Corps League, local dude, great dude. And he asked me about my service. And I said, just National Guardsman. I feel like that word just, it's like a little fucking knife.
Yeah.
You know, when you're like, I was just a whatever you say. And Dave stopped me and he said, no. Do not say just. He said, you were a National Guardsman. You did your job. And he was the first person to say that to me, where I was just like, thank you for saying that to me. You know what I mean? Like, it made me feel really good that he said that.
Hell yeah.
Because, like, you carry that stuff with you and you don't talk about it.
Nah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm glad that you're able to talk about it. Now, what made you guys feel comfortable coming around to, like, FAT?
Supporting vets.
Yeah. Supporting other people, too. Supporting
Well,
other veterans.
Supporting vets. Because
Yeah.
at that time, I wasn't a vet. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was, hey, you know what? I can help these vets. I can
Right.
help the, you know. So I'd go to the events and stuff like that and kind of support in that way.
Yeah.
And then I got involved and you said, no. You're a vet. No, I'm not. We had a few discussions and
Yeah. We've had many discussions. And again, I thank Dave because of that. You know what I mean? Because
Oh,
he
yeah.
did that for me. So, like, I wanted to make sure that I did that for you, too. What about you, Adrienne? What kind of made you start to feel comfortable?
Well, I had met your wife,
Yep.
and she had just kind of let me know that you ran a veteran program. And then my dad had seen a flyer in Mantino for the fundraiser, the Heroes Hot Rods.
Yeah.
And he was like, you should go to this. It's for vets, you know, and he circled in the paper for me.
Yeah.
Cut it
That's
out.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so when I went there and I saw Ashley and I was like, oh, and she was just telling me like, hey, they're, you know, they have meetups and all this stuff. They have support groups. And I was like, oh, you know, and I'm just thinking like the fact that this is free and available, I'm going to take advantage of it. Like,
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that. So, and then, Brad, you've talked about your service before.
Yeah.
Like you said. So, can you briefly go over your time in the Marines again?
Yeah, so I did the boot camp in MCT, and then I spent just 5 years in Okinawa as a cook.
Okay.
That was pretty much.
And when you guys left the military, how did you guys feel? Like when you left the military? Was it relief? Was it guilt? Was it anger? Like what did you guys feel?
Well, I mean, I think like anybody else, I felt freaking relieved.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
it's finally over.
Yeah.
I was never going to iron my clothes again.
No,
No.
hell with that. I haven't
Yeah,
made my
yeah.
bed since.
Never. Yeah.
But no, I was just like, yes, fuck yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I didn't really talk much about it.
Yeah. Robin?
I had a whole gambit of stuff. I mean, it was guilt because I was getting out
Right.
and didn't serve, you know, kind of thing. And then there was, I'm done. I was young still. I'm
Yeah.
done. Just done.
Yeah.
Didn't want to do that no more. Then I found out, hey, I'm going to miss this. All my brothers.
Right.
And been searching since
Yeah.
to fill that void. You know?
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. It's hard, man. I think a lot of people struggle with it. For sure.
I've been through so many things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fat finally, you know, is filling that void pretty good, you know.
That's why you guys have matching shirts.
Absolutely.
Aw. How do you guys explain your service to civilians when you get out? And do you feel the need to justify it? You guys touched on this a little bit already, but
When it comes to civilians, I don't, you know, because nobody really asks. You know, they'd say, oh, yeah, you know, they would say, thanks for your service. And that's about where it's at.
yeah.
The only people that have ever been interested in my service, you know, what I've done is vets. You know,
Yeah.
vets. They're like, hey,
I find that
what did you
true
do?
as well, yeah,
You know,
because-
I agree.
but civilians, it was back like after 01, everybody wanted to know because 9/11 happened.
Right.
Everybody wanted to know. Now, or even before that, I mean, it was, just another soldier. No big deal. You know,
Yeah.
there was no questions on what you did.
Yeah.
But luckily, that's with the more you do and people like yourself that create organizations, it's bringing more light to veterans to be able to talk about their service.
Yeah. The
And
whole
then-
veteran experience.
And then the civilians, even if they never ask, they always wonder. So then they listen to the podcast or listen to somebody else's podcast. They're like, man, I never knew it was like that.
yeah.
So then that gets them involved, you know.
Yeah.
So I've never really sat down and talked. Even me and Chris,
Yeah.
she really, you know, it's not something besides being in FAT herself, you know, with us in FAT herself. We've never really talked that much about it just
Yeah.
because she knows.
No, I get it. And Adrienne, I feel like females have a harder time also just because it seems like from talking to other female veterans, like a lot of the time female veterans don't get asked, period. Like it's like people don't expect a female to be a service member.
Correct.
So it's like you have to get over that part of it too, I feel like, which has to be really difficult. But did you feel the need to justify your service to people when you got out? Did you never talk about it?
Well, usually if I did talk about it, people would say what branch. I'd say the Air Force, and they'd say, "Oh, were you a pilot?" I'd say, "No, there's other jobs." And I would say, "I'm just a cook," or
Right.
and then I think they were like, "Oh." And then I remember one time I spoke in my daughter's classroom, maybe third grade. They wanted like a Veterans Day, and so we went and talked in front of the kids, and they were just like, they didn't know women could be in the military.
Yeah.
This one little boy was just like, nah. I mean, like, yeah, I was like, I'm serious. Here's the pictures. Like, you know. And I was like, wow, man, that's still a thought process, or,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Like
So,
we did an episode on female vets, and the research for it was awesome because I just read all these miscellaneous stories of what female soldiers had to do back in the day just to like get in, you know what I mean? And some of the insane stories of like overcoming everything of the time. Like, and this was, I don't know, was it not Revolutionary War? Like there was that one female vet who dressed up as a man just so she could join the military. She got shot like 3 times, shrugged that shit off, like all sorts of stories like that. You know what I mean? And it's crazy that now we're in 2025 and still like kids like don't understand that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that sucks.
I found they had a very like inflated version of like the military anyway, you know? So like, when they were like, you were a cook, you know, I was like, yeah, there's all kinds of jobs. There's firefighters, there's lab technicians.
Like everything, like almost everything that
literally anything
really
you can
exists
think of.
in civilian world kind of exists to some degree in the military. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of positions that you could be in where you're not necessarily on the front lines. But you still have to know that all service is service, right? Every role supports the mission, like every role, like you guys said, cooks, holy fuck. Like if
Some
you've
of my
ever
favorite
had
people,
bro, cooks and supply, you were always nice to the cooks and you were always nice to supply. Because when you're living off of fucking MREs and whatever other liquid egg bullshit in the field for like weeks and you get a hot meal, like, oh my God, like that's so fucking important for morale. You know what I mean? It's huge. So I want to get into some numbers here in regard to veterans and the percentage of veterans that deploy, everything like that. So here's what I got. Some numbers for you. About 6 in 10 veterans, 61%, say that they were deployed away from their permanent duty station at least once while they were on active duty, with roughly 3 in 10, 29%, saying that they were deployed 3 or more times. Roughly 4 in 10 veterans, 38%, were not deployed at all during their time in the military. So I'm going to stop at that. One of the veterans that I worked with on the crisis side, National Guard vet, served 6 years honorably, no issues, didn't deploy because it never came up for him. Like just what he did his job, he did all the things, he didn't try to get out on anything, and he didn't deploy. And like there are so many other veterans like him, and he was like destroying himself over that. And what made it worse is he had a family member that joined also, and the family member did deploy. And so then he had this like gigantic chip on his shoulder, like trying to get him in for veteran benefits just to see what he qualifies for. And he just like refused. He was like more stubborn than like a Vietnam veteran that also doesn't want to use the VA. He was just like, never, no, I'm not going to do it. He wouldn't let himself do it. You know what I mean? Because he didn't feel like he deserved it. But again, like 38%, it's a small fucking number of veterans. You could serve in the military and not deploy at all while you're in the military. You know what I mean? Like that's just that it is what it is. So for deployment, so post 9/11 veterans are much more likely to have been deployed than those who served in earlier eras. Roughly 3/4 of post 9/11 veterans, 77%, were deployed at least once, compared with 58% of veterans who served before 9/11. And about 3 in 10 veterans, 29%, had combat experience at some point in their military career, so 29%. So 70% didn't. You know what I mean? 29% had combat experience at some point in their military career. The share is markedly higher among veterans who served after 9/11. Roughly half of post 9/11, 49%, so higher, have had combat experience compared with 24% of veterans who served only before 9/11. So either way, like 50-50 shot. So out of all the veterans that are in post 9/11, half of them, just under half of them saw combat, and the others didn't see combat. And combat, again, is another broad spectrum, like of terminology as far as like what happens. Because you have some veterans who got combat action badges, CIBs, whatever, because they were on a fob and it got mortared. And that mortar might not have been that close to them. I don't know. You know what I mean? But they still could have got it. So do they deserve it? Do they not? I don't know. It's for a lieutenant or somebody to decide.
Right.
There's so many different ways that you can experience that combat. And so, I mean, again, when you look at those numbers, it's kind of hard to say, because for me in my role, I was a security force. So again, we weren't going house to house, weren't doing all that secret squirrel shit. So we would, get some pop shots here and there, small firefights maybe, but nothing like super crazy. And even still, and my thing too that hurt me though was that when I got back, I made the fucking mistake of talking to a World War II veteran. And that really made me and he didn't mean to make me feel bad about what I did, but he asked me if I saw any IEDs when I was overseas and I was working on the ambulance. We were responding to him actually to a call for him. And I told him that I was like, yeah, I hit an IED. Yeah. And the IED that I hit, thankfully, was just buried deep enough and just small enough where like everybody was okay. Like it lifted the vehicle up. Everybody was okay. That was it. Right. And so I tell him my story and he's like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. I'm like, yep, sure is. And he's like, yeah, I was in a submarine, got hit by a fucking missile or whatever in the water in the Atlantic. And he's like, 700 went in, 300 came out. I'm like, all right, dude, I'm sorry. I'm going to shut the fuck up. Like, do you want something? Do you want like a pop or like naming rights to my firstborn? Like, I'm sorry. I got it. Like, but that's not fair either. Like, you can always compare yourself to the next person or whatever that is, and it's just not fucking fair, I think, at all. But so as far as the emotional burden of not deploying or not seeing combat, there's a few different disorders that can affect you, that does affect a lot of veterans that might not necessarily seen combat. We'll talk about a couple of them. So one thing that you could be feeling is survivor's guilt. So survivor's guilt is the experience of psychological distress due to surviving or escaping a situation relatively unharmed or unaffected as compared to others. When one emerges relatively unharmed from an accident, conflict, pandemic, for example, while others have died or experienced a significant loss, a person may experience survivor's guilt despite bearing no responsibility for the outcomes that occurred. That veteran that I'd mentioned before, who served his 6 years honorably, and the other person in his family served, saw some combat, he had that survivor's guilt. He felt like he should have been over there protecting him or something, even though that's not necessarily how that works. You know what I mean? But still, he carried that with him, and it had been years since he got out. And I think those issues, when you feel inadequate, that pain turns into something if you don't do something about it. You know what I mean? And that's, again, so not fucking fair.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Do any of you ever feel like your service counted less when compared to others? And if so, where do you think that feeling came from?
Exactly that, what you were just going through.
Yeah.
Our unit, and when we were in the Guard, I got out, and then my cousin was in, went over, and he's seen action, and he's just different. Yeah. And it's like, shit, I should have been there. I should have stayed in, went with them, it was, I was the same way, man. Right. Really. And then we're close now. We're still close, but to feel that, you're like, damn. Yeah. Because before I got out, we were super close. Yeah. And then when we got back, he was our tie was different, Yeah. So it's like, shit. So I feel like I lost part of that, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just to think that why the hell would it, you know? Such is life. We kind of go, like you said, I mean, your gamut is everything, you know.
Right.
What he did, what I did, that's where we were meant to be.
Right.
This is weird to me, but it's, you know, but I still, you know, no matter what I go through and how much I accept it, I still feel that a little bit.
Right.
It's weird, but.
Right. Adrienne, what about you?
I definitely at first, I think when I first got out, felt like I said, I would say I was just a cook. Like those words would come out of my mouth too. So, whereas I mean, I've definitely worked on that and gotten to the point where I was like, no, how many people came into the chow hall and were like, man, I look forward to this part of my day every day.
Yeah. It's like the only thing you have to look forward to
right.
sometimes.
It's like, oh my gosh, it's turkey a la King Day. Like,
Fuck yeah.
you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, I just remember at the time not liking it and being sweaty and greasy and like, you know, hot and on my feet for the 9 hours a day. And there were people who were ungrateful and assumed that I had flunked out of my schooling, and so I was a cook as a result of that. I was told that by
Really?
2 separate people. Yeah.
Like other service members while you're in?
Yeah, like customers coming through the food line.
Did you fuck with their food? I would have.
You could go to jail for that, dude.
You can go to jail?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
like
wow.
if you get people sick.
Assault?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, if you get people sick, dude. I don't know if you guys did it 'cause, like back in the day, but did you have like you took a little sample of everything you made and you put it on a plate and then you saved it? Like is that, and then like
No.
if someone got sick, they would like test that. Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, we didn't go that far.
Damn.
Yeah.
Either way, okay. So that's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because you would think that if somebody flunked out of everything, they joined the infantry. Like,
Right.
that's the
what I
infantry
was
guy.
thinking.
It's like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't think any other job for that.
I
But
mean, hell, I know a guy that went from the infantry and became a cook because
Yeah.
he wanted a promotion.
Yeah.
He's like, I got to go through cooks. I'm like, go to be a cook. I mean, I gave him grief for that, of course.
oh hell yeah,
But because he was going from infantry.
Right.
But then he's like, dude, I'm going to get my frickin' stripes. I'm like, cool, go, dude.
yeah,
Enjoy
super
it.
smart. Yeah, very jealous of you. Wow, yeah. Enjoy it while I'm out here fucking digging a hole. And hating
Right,
my life.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of the perspective from the grunt side of things is like because being a grunt sucks like most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
You're just gonna give other people shit to make yourself feel better because of how much it sucks. Like you know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's like, yeah, I really want to fucking dig a hole and shit in it and then dig a hole next to it that I'm gonna sleep in.
Right.
That's gonna be awesome. You know what I mean? But to Adrienne's point, have either of you ever been made to feel less than by other veterans because either you didn't see combat or because you didn't deploy, whatever the case may be, like other veterans?
I've had a couple, but I had that with the fire service too because I was a volunteer firefighter.
Yeah.
So they felt the same way, like when they said you were in the National Guard.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, they do that. Oh, what do you mean,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
like, dude, what the hell you want?
Right.
You know? Oh, did you go through the same thing I went through? Oh, okay.
Right.
We went through the same basic training. We did all that. Now that's when I defended myself because I'm like, wait a minute. I'm the dude who's hauling the 60 because I was a 60 gunner.
Nice.
So I'm the dude that humped the 60, but you had a 16. We just did that same ruck march together, didn't we?
Right.
Oh, just saying.
Yeah.
I didn't like that very much when you threw that at him because I'm like, and I kind of crossed the line behind the lieutenant here. And where were you at? Oh, that's right. You're in the back.
See, well, because like afterwards, I don't feel like I've seen other veterans put down other veterans for their service. I'm sure
I've seen
happens.
I get like that friendly banter. Like
Sure.
Yes.
I was in the chair force. I get that
Right.
all the time.
For sure, yeah. It's really
Never
hard
really
not to
heard
fuck with the
that
Air Force.
until I got out, and it was veterans saying that.
Yeah.
You know.
You could be the biggest
And I was
badass in
like-
the Air Force. You're still going to get fucked.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So it's like
Yeah.
that kind. I don't know if that's misinterpreted as like, yeah, I didn't feel less than. I'm like, yeah, I picked the better of the branches. So.
Oh my! That again,
Freaking
just
smart.
like what I was saying about like grunts just being fucking pissed off. every other branch is jealous of the Air Force.
Right.
Every other
I'm like,
branch
that's why
is
they're
jealous
so
of the Air
salty.
Force.
Yeah.
That's why we all talk so much shit. Because like, man, I fucking wish I would have joined the fucking Air
Well,
Force.
the
You know what I mean?
recruiter was never there.
He was never there. He's always playing
Never
golf.
there.
He was always fucking busy doing something, playing
Right.
golf or just like taking care of his hair or like whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is that
See, I went to one up north. I couldn't get it. I drove up to Chicago Heights
oh really?
because I needed to find the Air Force recruiter
That you were serious.
because
One
they
right
had the
was over
shortest
here.
boot camp. That was my final
How long?
decision.
How long was their boot camp?
6.5 weeks.
Okay. Did you have? And then what was the training after that?
Then my training for cook was 3 months.
3 months. Really?
No, I'm sorry. I was total there 3 months. My training for cook was 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So 6 weeks and 6 weeks I was.
That sounds about right.
Fucking gourmet chefs.
Right.
But like the banter thing too. The thing with the banter, you can feel if it's coming from like a place of malice.
Oh,
or
Right,
not.
yeah.
But like what I also always see in those groups is like, yeah, we're going to talk shit about each other. But if somebody that didn't put a uniform on at all tries to join in, then I would be like, no, you don't.
Right, yeah.
It's like, I can talk shit about my family, but if
Right.
you talk shit about my family, like, you
That's
can't
my
talk
little
shit.
sister, man.
You can't talk shit about me. You know what I mean?
No,
So it's all like friendly and out of love for sure. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think I felt it more in service than
Yeah.
I did I do as a veteran, where
Right.
I got more shit as a cook being in service
Same.
than
Really?
I do as a veteran. Yeah.
Well, see, that's where, I mean, yeah, it was when I was when I went from the National Guard to active.
Yeah.
That's where I got it. But as a vet, no. It was. I've never felt that since I've been out, getting from another veteran.
Yeah.
Where I've never really gotten that. But being in, like those are the guys. I go from National Guard to active, and they, you can just they roll their eyes, and they're like I said, like when I was in the fire department, same way. You had these full-time firefighters that worked 11 days a month.
Yeah.
But when my pager went off at 3:00 in the morning,
Yeah.
sleeping in my comfy bed, I'm still hopping out of the bed and going to do that. They
Yeah.
still didn't have to do that on their days off,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
me and a couple guys went nose to nose on that one too. They're like, well, I'm like, no. I passed everything you passed, dude.
Right.
You work 11 days a month, make 10 times more than I do because I'm volunteering here.
Well, and I think the more time that goes by, the wiser you get, the more you understand the importance of it all and the unity of it all and why everybody is so important. And I say that because of talking to like Vietnam veterans. Like most Vietnam vets that I've met, and I've met some that have done some shit.
Oh, yeah.
And they are so welcoming to all veterans. You know what I mean? Like they're the ones who are like,
Probably
don't
because they
downplay
weren't
your
accepted
service.
when
Oh
they
my
came
God.
home.
Yeah. Seriously. So it's like, those are the vets that encourage the rest of us, the younger generations of veterans, that like, do not downplay your service. Don't downplay your service. And for that to come from those guys who are going in fucking those little, what do you call them? Those little like tunnels, going through the tunnels and
tunnel
stuff.
rats?
Oh my
Oh, yeah.
God, doing that type of shit.
Yeah.
Telling us, don't downplay your service.
Yeah.
That means a lot when it comes from them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So another disorder, a couple of disorders. We'll talk about adjustment disorder and imposter syndrome here for a second. So adjustment disorder. Adjustment disorder, we've talked about before. It's a mental health condition where an individual experiences significant emotional or behavioral distress and difficulties in adapting to a specific stressful life event or change. This reaction is considered maladaptive, meaning it's not typical or a healthy way to cope with the situation. Some symptoms of adjustment disorder. Sadness and hopelessness, so feeling down, tearful, experiencing a loss of interest in activities, anxiety and nervousness, feeling worried, jittery, having a general sense of unease, irritability, feeling easily frustrated, angered, or short-tempered, loss of pleasure, difficulty enjoying activities that were previously pleasurable, social withdrawal, isolating yourself, difficulties with daily activities, impulsive or reckless actions, conflict, argumentativeness, sleep disturbances, appetite changes, physical complaints, difficulty concentrating, and difficulty making decisions. So everything. Those are like all of the symptoms. Like, that's everything.
Check.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So have you guys experienced any of those? Do any of those symptoms really stick out?
Oh yeah.
Which ones?
There wasn't one you said that.
Yeah. Like every single one was just like,
And I'm like, you want me to
bit.
pick one
Right.
here?
That's how I felt. That's how I felt when we did the ADHD episode and Brad's wife was on here talking about like all the symptoms of having ADHD. And I was like, ooh, I don't appreciate what you're doing right now. You know what I
You're
mean?
texting your doctor in the corner.
Like, that's not good. All of that, super significant.
I was actually diagnosed with adjustment disorder while I was in the service.
While you were in?
Yep.
So having a hard time adjusting in like from being a civilian into being in the Marines?
I'm not sure. I think it was just like Okinawa overload, honestly.
Yeah.
And like I was like over adjusted, and I was like, all right, I'm sick of this shit. Like it's time to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the issue that I see, so I work at a Veterans Assistance Commission, is we have a lot of veterans that come in that either did not deploy or deployed and didn't see combat, that don't believe that they have any issues, and also stop themselves from getting the care that they are owed, that they deserve, that have like that should go get tested or see somebody to see if they have adjustment disorder. And we've talked to a lot of them about it. You know what I mean? Because it's significant. It's real. It's a real fucking thing. And you can get help for it. And you can talk to a VSO if you might have any of those symptoms, which again, I feel like fucking everybody has almost all of those symptoms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really relevant for all veterans and to include veterans that may not have seen combat. It's how did you feel about getting out of the service? Like, did you feel in regard to like having that story to tell? Like, do you feel like when you got out, like you still had stories to tell, or did you just not want to talk about it because you feel like it was just so minimalized?
Mine was just, I really didn't want to talk about it much.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, because it's like, I didn't do nothing, you know.
Yeah,
I trained.
yeah.
I could tell all the stories about all the training I did.
Yeah.
And some of the dumb shit I did when we were training.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like, and it was I never really started telling my stories until I came around fat, you know.
Right.
You know, some of the dumbass stuff in Panama and, you know.
Yeah.
I think you touched on that on the last episode of tying people to trees and shit.
Oh yeah. Yes, I did. I definitely did.
You know, dumb stuff like that, you know. But never really talked to anybody else when I was like, nothing. I
Same
got
for
out.
me. But I found that people didn't really ask.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm not going to burden them with this information that they don't want to hear. So a lot of that was probably me, you know, not just saying, like, they don't want to hear about it. I was just, you know, that was in my head of like, oh, I like to make omelets.
You're
you know?
shaming yourself, guilting yourself.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't really talk about it or bring it up.
No, I get it. That makes sense.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely. I don't stuff your, you know, information down someone's throat that don't want it. You know what I mean? It's like that's what you felt.
Right.
I totally get that.
Right.
I think on the flip side of that though, I feel like had we talked about our service, civilians would have a better understanding of what it like means to be a veteran. Because every time that I don't know about you guys, but the first question I always get is like, "Oh, did you kill anybody, or did you like shoot people?"
I've gotten that, yes.
Right. And I feel like had I taken the time to understand and like help them understand that it's not just
right.
You know what I mean? And as annoying as it, you know, as much as I didn't want to tell people I was a cook, I think that would help the civilians understand a little bit better that being a veteran is not just going door to door and killing people.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking about earlier, like you're taking somebody's entire service and you're just wrapping it up with one question.
Yeah.
You're going to judge the entirety of their service on that one question. Did you kill anybody?
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And to do that with anything, to try to minimize it that much is just such an unfair thing to do to anybody. You know what I mean? You're only going to make them feel shitty. You know what I mean? Like it's just such a shitty thing to do.
Usually my smart ass comment is killed a few brain cells, but I mean, other than that, I mean, that was about all.
Yeah.
You know, you say some smart ass comment because you're like, That's a dumbass question.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it'd be like asking a cop the same thing. You know?
Right.
It's just
Right.
it's so sad to hear that. You know?
Well, it's a lose-lose.
Right.
because
You're going to talk about it then?
Right.
Or-
Well, and the vets that I've met that have killed people didn't want to fucking talk about it
I was
anyway.
just going to say that. Yeah.
So, like, just
They're just
don't
gonna say
ask.
no
Either
anyway,
way,
probably.
just
Yeah.
just don't fucking ask
I mean,
questions like that. It's just a stupid question.
I got
to ask, you know what I
a
mean?
vet that I know that, you know, when he came back, he told me the one story, and to this day, and it's been damn near 20 years since I heard that first story.
Yeah.
I still don't know the details other than he shot someone,
Right.
because I don't want to ask him.
Nope.
If he comes out and talks to him, great.
Yep.
Let's rock and roll, baby. But other than that, I'm like, I ain't asking him, because I ain't letting him like get back into his head, because
Right.
I mean, if that's the first person that you ever seen or ever killed, dude, that's gonna fry him again. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I'm like, I ain't doing that to him.
You're just triggering him.
I want to. I mean, I want to know,
Of
just
course.
to let him offload that. But
Right.
until he's ready, that's okay.
Yeah.
Isn't it sad that we live in a society where like Hollywood and all these things glorify war and killing people and like, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
To where, but like the mental, like you just said, like you said 20 years ago that this happened, and this dude's still dealing with it.
Yeah.
And yet you can go watch Black Hawk Down or the movie with Chris Kyle, and it's just like so glorified, and it's like, nah.
Yeah.
I think that's a big problem too.
Yeah, they make it seem really cool, and some of it is really cool for sure, and you have your cool moments and get to do cool stuff, but like some of the aspects of it, they definitely try to make look way better.
Yeah.
Way better than it is, and then they don't show everything afterwards.
Yeah, they should show the after effect.
the mental health
Oh my
effects.
God.
And
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to develop, they came out with a game for the Army when I was in. It was like a game for Xbox, and it was like, this is what it's like to be in the Army. I was like, this is bullshit. Because if there was a real game that simulated what it was like to be in the military, you should have to, in real time, stand in line and wait for 4 hours.
Hurry up and wait.
For dumb shit, for no reason. Like, you should have to do all that. But no, you wouldn't want to do sexy shit. Like, no, you should have to do all the
You should
shit.
also have to get your butthole looked at by an old dude.
You're going to have an old guy stare at your butthole at maps. That's the first step of the game.
First step of the game.
Yeah.
You know what
Mine
I
was
mean?
an old lady.
Well, that's fair.
Question answered. Question answered. Remember, we were wondering about that
There's
before.
no
But I was like,
young,
yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense.
We
So it was
were-
just the world's oldest woman.
Yep.
Either way.
They were
still
probably
fucking-
married.
Oh my God.
The
yeah.
old dude and the old. They're like, dear, let's go look at buttholes today.
That's adorable. Hey, maybe they got it figured out. You know what I mean?
They sure do.
But that would be way more realistic instead of like always glorifying how
Yeah.
it goes. You know what I mean? And so I went to a wedding recently with, it was for a buddy that I served with. We were contractors together, and I was sitting at a table with some other contractors. And, you know, we'd all gotten out of that life. So we're all talking about the good old days and how things were and blah, blah, blah. And so we start talking about what we're doing now. And the second we started talking about what we were doing now, it's like the conversation shifted, like the tones shifted, like the vibe just got kind of like a little bit more depressing in a way. And we're going around, and guys were kind of sharing what they were working on. And they asked me what I was doing. And I told them what I was doing. And the guy next to me, big fucking dude, big Brit, was a badass overseas, badass contractor. So after I talk about what I'm doing with FAT and the BAC, he just looked at me and said, I sell fucking windows. And he said it just like that. You know what I mean? And
I just sell windows.
and like, because he used to do all of this other cool shit.
Yeah.
Now he's not doing that anymore. And clearly, like, he fucking hates it to a degree. Like, it's paying the bills, and that's great.
Right, yeah.
But you don't see that type of stuff either. Like, it's hard for people to make that transition.
Yeah.
Like, I also worked with some, a guy that you see these guys that are adrenaline junkies when they get out. You know what I mean? Because they miss that. One of the guys that I was also a contractor with robbed 6 banks in Texas after he got out. And he was the last dude I ever thought would do that shit. One of the last dudes I ever thought would do that
I thought
shit.
I was doing some stupid stuff. but
Sick.
That's
I
crazy.
think it was like 6 banks.
You know?
Yeah, it was
Wow.
fucking wild.
MMA and professional wrestling and all this stuff that probably shouldn't be doing, it at a broken down body. I was doing it just to try and feel that,
Right.
And robbing banks, I think that'll be a little bit more adrenaline. Yeah,
Oh my God.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, probably.
Well, the military does a shit job at getting you ready for for the civilian world again. They don't. I got
for
yelled
sure.
at. I got yelled at because we were writing resumes, and mine was only like 2 pages and not like 17. And I'm like, who the hell is going to read a 17-page resume?
Especially nowadays. Nowadays, it's like 1 page.
Yeah, it
Right.
better
No
be
more than
like
that.
10 words.
But you know what I'll give some credit to? I will give credit to the National Guard, because in comparison to my friends that were active and told me about the struggles that they had being in an active environment, on base, living that life for years, and then going to the civilian world, that was very difficult for them. I don't understand necessarily what that's like, because that wasn't my experience, but I could understand how that would be very difficult. Whereas being in the National Guard, I was home, I did enough training, and then I went to go mob. I will go overseas, and then I come back. I still, because when I was in the National Guard, I was going to community college back home, working on the education stuff. I was working, setting myself up for everything else that I wanted to do. So I think that made for an easier transition when I came home. Like, I'm interested. I don't know if there's any studies out there about National Guard versus active as far as getting out and like the mental health side of things. I'm sure that there's still just as many, I guess, but I mean, I felt like that helped me out a lot because I had a little bit of the civilian world. I didn't have to go from one environment to the other.
Yeah,
I
and
feel like that's more drastic.
it's almost like you had a little bit of a foundation too. Where,
Yeah.
like I feel like I got out and it was like, well, thanks for your service. See you later.
Right.
And it's just like, all right.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah.
So
So I wanted to talk about some healthy ways to reframe your self-worth in the military community. So what helped you guys realize that your role was still critical?
I keep going back to the same thing, fat.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
really, because
Yeah.
you're the one that said, you're like, well, maybe that's not what you were meant to be. Maybe you were meant to do what you're doing right now. You're helping vets. Guess what? They can offload. They can talk to you. You're easy to talk to. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm still kind of serving my military community by doing the things that I'm doing and giving what works for me when I'm stressed.
Yeah, dude.
So literally, that's what's helped me, because until then, I struggled big time. I'm like, I got nothing healthy. The bar,
Right.
driving super fast in cars and, doing stupid shit. And then I found fat. Well, of course, my wife has helped me along the ways,
Oh, sure.
Now, she has not stopped me from doing all my stupid shit. She's been there right there. Okay, you want to get in a cage at 47 years old and fight another man? That's what you want to do. She was
Hey,
there.
that's support, my friend.
She supports the hell out of me. But she's like, I ain't going to do it.
Right.
You can go do it, but I'll be here to bandage you up when you're done.
Right.
So, yeah.
But in fact, it's like Ed Harris and Armageddon. Seen Armageddon, right?
Oh, yeah.
Ed Harris? I fucking love Armageddon. I watch it at least once a year. Do you not like Armageddon? Is that why you're shaking
I
your
was
head?
just lovingly thinking of the song from that movie.
Oh, Aerosmith, Don't Want to Miss a Thing. Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler
Right?
laying on the fucking grassy hill
with the animal crackers.
with
Or is it-
animal crackers. That was an Armageddon.
It's a fantastic song.
Ed Harris. So Ed Harris was critical in Armageddon. He was the dude who was, at Houston or Mission Control or whatever, helping direct everything and making sure that everything was moving. And the whole time, his little side plot was like, he should have been up there. He wanted to be up there. He wanted to be an astronaut, which is why before, spoiler on a movie that's like 30 fucking years old, before Bruce Willis died, he ripped off his fucking patch and said, give this to whatever Ed Harris's character's name was.
Yeah.
Because he knew that he wanted to be up there.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't know what your role is.
Well,
in
same
life.
with the mission to the moon. The one guy got measles like the week of and couldn't go,
Really?
or like a week before, and he could not then go. Or he tested he didn't have them, but he tested positive, and they said, nope, you're not going. Another guy stepped in. That guy that stayed back was instrumental in like getting him back.
Really? That's really cool. I didn't know that. That's a real world version of my story.
Yeah.
That actually did happen too. But it's like, you don't know what your purpose is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that was a chapter in your life, but
Yep.
it wasn't the whole fucking book.
Oh, yeah.
Like you don't know what other things you're going to go on and do. And the things that you have in your life that caused you pain are things that you will now be able to help others with
Yeah.
that deal with a similar pain.
Well, that's the thing. Is at the time, that was my life. Oh my gosh,
Right.
my life is ending, this and that. But now I'm like, ooh, I got like 3 more books to write here.
Yeah.
I got a whole lot more stuff. So,
Hell yeah.
and I've been trying to reinvent myself again at 50 some years old. I'm trying to reinvent myself again.
That's great.
Stop it.
That's a good thing.
I was
No,
just gonna
he's
say,
going to tell me I'm ancient again.
I was gonna say 50. I thought you were a couple years older than that. But hey, 50 something. You look great, buddy.
Thanks. I try to. Well,
I'm blind.
you can't see me.
I
so
don't
that's
know what you look like.
Oh, I always forget that Brad's blind.
Everybody forgets that.
It's on his T-shirt.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But he doesn't always wear that
Yeah.
T-shirt. But you
Right.
should start.
I
wearing
It's
do-
always
it.
under his clothes. You
Yeah.
just,
It's under his
like
clothes.
Superman.
It's true. I do actually wear sunglasses and bring a cane with me everywhere I go, though, if I don't have the T-shirt on. So there is that.
Just so
Clues.
people. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
There might be clues.
Yeah.
Adrienne, what about you? What helped you realize that your role was still critical?
My role is still critical to this day.
Not to this day. Well,
You met my. Oh, I'm sorry.
what helped you realize that what you did in the military was important?
I think FAT and getting together with other veterans and talking about it, and meeting a lot of veterans who were like, "Oh my gosh, the chow hall was the best part of my day." Like,
Yeah.
I didn't get as much of that in
Yeah.
that I'm getting now.
Yeah.
And also finding like a female group of veterans, because in my experience with checking out veteran things, it was a bunch of like older guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Not people my generation or
Right.
just not females either.
Just
so,
a bunch of Robins. You can say it.
Right.
so that's been a big help of like even little things that I'm like, oh, I just thought that was a struggle I had. And I didn't know every other female had that same, or every other cook, or you know what I mean? It was like, oh, I'm not just the one that didn't matter.
Well, there's a peace in just knowing you're not alone.
Yeah.
So just to
For sure.
know that other people had that experience, and then you can bond with these people that were strangers 5 seconds ago because they had a similar experience to you. So you know that it's okay. It makes you feel a little bit better knowing that other people had that same experience, and you don't have to give yourself guilt or shame or anything because of your experience, because it wasn't a personal thing against you. You did your job. You served your country. And that's what they needed you to do. And that's what you did.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
What would you say to another veteran that was struggling with feeling invisible because either they didn't deploy or didn't see combat, anything like that? What would you say?
So I actually have a friend, a close friend who was a veteran, and almost nobody knows because she does not want them to know, because of that guilt of I didn't deploy with my squadron when they went. I had to stay behind. She won't accept veteran discounts. So, I mean, she doesn't. And I talk to her all the time, and I just tell her the experiences I've had with like FAT, and I'm like, there's other people who have that feeling and have that. And she actually said to me last time we got together, I was just talking about some of the outings we had done with Veiled Valor, the female group. And she goes, you might actually get me out there one of these days. So and I didn't even, I just thought, oh, okay. A little inkling.
Yeah,
So all you
that's
do is-
huge.
Mm-hmm.
All you do is just keep, hey, you know what?
And I don't pressure.
You got an event coming up. Just to let you know. Yeah, if you want to come, and just make it kind of nonchalant, and then let them make that. We've seen a few people with FAT. Hey, you know what? I got some vets that I know, and I've been working on them. Just not working on them. Just be like, hey, dude, we got this event coming up. June 1st, we got this. We got some. We're do some kayaking, do this at different events, and just let them know they're there.
Yeah.
And then when they start asking me more about it, then I start getting a little bit more in depth, because then I know they're interested.
Yeah.
Because you can't force them, because they're never gonna,
We spent years having people tell us what to do,
Yeah.
how to do everything, all of that shit. it's really hard to tell veterans what to do. Because veterans like just don't want to fucking deal with any authority like whatsoever. Like, fuck you. I've had people yell at me to do shit, you know, most of my life or that period of my life. So I feel like when it comes to working with vets, like you guys said, they have to make the decision. It's their decision to make. If you want to get involved, great. If you don't, all good. As long as you're okay. Like, all good. Whether it's our organization, another organization, whatever the fuck you want to do. Like, whatever helps you out.
Yeah.
But, like, what I've noticed is, especially vets that struggle with whatever, it's like, it's all about that positive consistency. And then, when they hit that spot, and they feel alone, and they're like, I just wish I had somebody to make me not feel alone. Oh, wait. Adrienne told me that there's another group where people might understand me. You know what? I'm at my wit's end right now. Maybe I need to give that a shot. The amount of times that I've seen that happen with my own eyes. And I have, you know, and Brad and I have talked about this a lot, but the text threads to prove it with plenty of veterans that I'll reach out to every once in a while, like, hey, just checking in, see if you need anything. And they won't respond to me. I had this one dude who wouldn't respond to me. I would text him every few weeks, every month or whatever. And he didn't respond to me for like a year. And it was like around Christmas time, I think. And he responded back and just said, thank you for always reaching out to me. And so I was like, okay, I'll keep doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you just got to keep doing it. And then either they come around eventually, which is great, or even if they don't, they know that you care about them because you're like talking to them about it. You know what I mean? So it's like a win-win. And then it's no pressure on you because it's not like they have to show up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of feel guilty sometimes when I do that, though. Like, I'll reach out to certain people that I know they want the help, but they're not asking for it yet. I know they need it. So I'll be like, hey, how's it going, man? Just checking in with you. And then one time they'll answer me back. And then the next time they don't answer for like weeks. And I'm like, dude, I checked on you.
Yeah.
You told me you wanted help.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, am I not doing enough? Am I not checking on them enough? So then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I did what I was supposed to do. And it's now on them to come back and say, hey, I'm fine, or piss off, or whatever.
Nope. You seem to be more annoying. That's why I send a group text every day.
Yes, you do.
Every day.
I fucking love it.
Everybody in this room actually gets one. So.
I love it.
Yep.
I do. I love them.
I don't. You know, I hardly ever respond.
You never respond, but
I
you know
read
what?
it every
It's fine.
time.
I appreciate
read it
that.
every time, and I still enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And now that I know you have an iPhone, you're getting lasers, sir. Oh, just you wait.
That's fine.
Yes,
Try opening that first thing in the morning. With
Try
laser flashes
And
on your eyes.
and he already has a hard enough time opening his eyes all the way.
Oh shit. That's fine. You haven't had an Asian joke in a while.
Hey, you threw a couple blind jokes in that I didn't say anything.
I will. I do.
right.
It took me a long time in our relationship for me to start throwing them out because I just refused to believe that it was okay.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
then I
fine.
would check in with you after other people were fucking with you for being blind. I'm like, dude, is that okay with you? And you're like, no, it's great. I'm like, all right.
I live for it, dude.
Fuck it, man.
Right?
I love blind jokes.
Okay. So, Adrienne, you answered that question. Robin, what would you tell a veteran that felt invisible?
My story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it takes a while. I mean, you figured, like I said, it was, what the hell? Like I said, I've been here around 2 years. I've been out since 01. So it took me that long. And someone talking to me saying, dude, no, you matter.
Yeah.
What you did, it may have been what you think was this big, but you don't know how your ripple in the water actually went down the line.
Yeah.
There's guys I see nowadays. There's sergeants that I thought, that dude thought I was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I seen him not too long ago at the VAC. He walked up, hugged me. I was like, what the hell? This guy doesn't hug. This guy's like hard-nosed. He was our supply sergeant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude. He's like, man, you were such a great soldier. I'm like,
Yeah.
you might have a mental disorder because I don't remember you making me feel that way sometimes.
Right.
But yeah.
He might actually from service.
Right. Exactly. But no, it was, like I said, to hear that actually my little ripple made you know.
Yeah.
So it was, and you
Because
have
you don't know. You don't know how you affect
And
other
like I said,
people. How could you?
And I didn't know. I didn't realize that until I talked to you, and you're like, "No, really, what you did, you know." And I'm like, "Oh, but I only." And then, like I said, You're like, "You didn't
Right.
just only. You did that, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah.
and that's the same way. I do that now. Actually, I use that same thing with certain people that they're like, well, but I was only in for a year because of what happened, man.
Right.
Well, this happened. Well, I guess that was what you were meant to do. You affected someone down that line that now they went on to do something, or that little memory will help someone else. I mean, we all have a job, like you said. Whether you did a great big job that, look at all these awards on my wall, or what we did, what we thought was insignificant, they fed us. Hey,
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
I didn't have the liquid eggs in the field, stuff like that. But and mine was, just, and I say just, and it's going to be hard for me not to say that. The things I did do affected someone.
Yeah.
Maybe in a way that I didn't even know.
Oh, for sure. Well, and you also got to think about, too, the amount of guys that get medically discharged before they were able to deploy or anything, too. And, like, the guilt and survivor's guilt and all the issues that they have.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine that I worked on a contract with, he was a ranger, and he goes to be a ranger again, special operations community. Those are the fucking cool guys.
Oh, yeah.
And he got medically discharged after I believe he made it through training. When he got to his unit, it was before that, or around that time, he got injured. And then so he never got to deploy.
Oh,
and that just like ate him up.
Oh, yeah.
And just destroyed him. And everything that he was doing after that was like to make up for the fact that he felt like he failed. But something happened to him that was completely outside of his control. So it's so unfair for a person when they're just when they are a victim of circumstance to just like add shit on top of shit to guilt themselves and make themselves feel worse. Like, it's just so not fair, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Brad, do you have something to say?
I was gonna say, I feel like that's beaten into us, though.
Yeah.
At least at Marine Corps boot camp, they're like, we're training you to kill. You're a rifleman first, blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And they train you for this, and they prepare you for this, and then you don't do that, and then it's like, oh, shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it, too. Why people are so hard on themselves.
Yeah.
As far as that.
Yeah.
I mean, just speaking for...
Well, and I was going to say, Brad, what would you say to another veteran that was struggling? Well,
for starters, I'd probably say you are invisible. I can't see you.
Can see.
Ha
I
no.
thought about that as it started coming out.
I don't know, man. I would just say take what you did and realize that it's a life skill, no matter what it is. I think it took me until I realized I have a skill now that I can provide for my family, and I can bring people together. So I took something that I thought at the time was super shitty and sucked, and I turned it into something that I really enjoy now and I love. So I would say just take what you do and love it and learn from it and grow from it.
And also, you all still made a selfless decision to do something that like 1% of the fucking population.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is also impressive.
You wrote that blank check.
Yeah.
They didn't cash it.
Right.
You gave it to them.
Right.
And I have to tell myself every once in a while, dude, you signed that check at 17 years old.
Yeah.
You were even legal to drink.
Right.
You couldn't even vote.
Right.
But you did that.
Yeah.
They didn't cash it. That's on them, not you. So you got to tell them. You got to tell yourself that. That's out of your control.
Yeah.
You know what? If they'd have said, "Here's your number. You got to go," I'd have went. But they didn't pull my number. That was out of my control.
Right.
And that's how you got to look at it. I mean, really.
Yeah. I mean, that act of selflessness in and of itself is like a very positive character trait that defines who you are over everything else, regardless of what you did in service, because you were willing to do whatever they told you to do.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you guys think that there's enough acknowledgement within the veteran community for struggles of non-combat veterans?
Not at first.
No, I don't. Especially
now it's-
PTSD and stuff like that. I don't think you can. People think you can't have that unless you saw combat.
Yeah. People. I mean, they do think that. I didn't. I thought the same way. I really thought if you didn't see combat, how in the world are you gonna have PTSD?
Yeah.
Until I went to therapy, and she said, "Dude, you have PTSD." I'm like, "What do I got PTSD from?" She goes, "Oh, I don't know. Here, let's run down this list."
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, wow." I mean, just going through training to become a soldier.
Yeah.
You go through some stuff that, like you said, 1% of the population is the only ones that ever do it.
Right.
99% of the population couldn't put up with any of that. Going through boot camp of the CS chamber or being thrown. Well, when I was in, drill sergeants could lay their hands on you.
Yeah.
And did most oftenly.
Yeah.
So that would cause a lot of that, and then still it's almost like a PTSD. I guess it's like PTSD if you train, and then never go.
It's like that movie Jarhead. Kind of like that, right? Yeah.
I mean, and that weighs on your mind.
Yeah.
So then, and I didn't think that until I started talking to someone, and they're like, "No, if you go, this is literally verbatim the signs of PTSD because of these situations. You didn't have to see traumatic stuff, but you lived traumatic stuff according to the normal population."
Well, I had a Vietnam era veteran. He wasn't in Vietnam, but I'll talk about it all the time. He was an MP and he didn't go to Vietnam. And at first that used to bother him. But as an MP where he was stationed, he responded to an airplane fucking crash, like all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like, did he see combat? No. Did he see super traumatic things that would affect him forever? Yeah, absolutely. And so the notion of just thinking, well, you're a veteran, but you didn't see combat, there's no way you can have PTSD. That's bullshit. That's such a terrible blanket
or a
statement
lot
to
of
make.
other mental health disorders.
God,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Like you have anxiety because of boot camp, or you know what I mean? It's just
There's a lot.
yeah.
Yeah. That, and obviously, again, some stuff that they're just starting to talk about now, military sexual trauma, both for females and for males. There's a lot of that too. There's all sorts of other issues that could come up that you don't have to be in combat for that could affect you from like in a very significant way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think the veteran community can do to be better in supporting non-combat?
I truly, and I keep going back to this, and it's not to inflate egos or anything like that. I truly think you have the blueprint for that. With what you're doing, you're making it known. You're doing this. You're doing what FAT does, and reaching out not only in our community. I mean, you've been to how many people have contacted you across the country that want to do what you're doing because it's working. And
I just think having regular conversations too with each other, of like
absolutely.
forcing that almost of like every Monday we got this, every Wednesday we got this,
Yeah.
every Saturday we've got that. You know what I mean? And just having that conversations with people that you're like, oh, they get it. I can let my guard down.
Yep. Yeah. Having that that normalcy in your life to where we can hang out and just BS, have a good time. Want to talk? Cool. But you have that ability. Not having the ability and still feeling invisible or whatever, and you can't let that out. But now you come around other people, even if the people that are not veterans that are in FAT, they're so like welcoming to listen. Just sit there. We have people that are phenomenal, and they're like, what do you mean? You know, they look at us and they're like, what the heck are you talking about?
Right.
You're a veteran, man. But they're there to talk to us, and they volunteer. And I think that's another thing. Having civilians that didn't go through it helping us is really letting some people that have super high anxiety about it relax, because we're so high strung, and when you don't relax or you get uptight around, we'll say civilians, because that's what usually creates that. Because other vets don't make you unless they're giving you a bunch of grief. But other than that, what we got going on is perfect. it is the blueprint for what we need to do is just be there for each other. The open communications, the regularity in your routine of either meetings or the ruck. We do every Friday or Saturday or whatever they do the ruck, and we just go out and talk.
Yeah.
We talk about life.
Yeah.
And then sometimes our experiences do come up. In general, normal conversation, it's not forced. Nothing is forced. It's just we're talking, and all of a sudden, this image pops into your head, and you're like, I got to get this out.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to do it without feeling like you're doing something stupid,
Well, and having an event such as like the Ruck March, or we do a weekly Stitch and Bitch, the women get together, and having something to do with our hands and stare at. It's not like we're all just sitting in a circle like, hi, my name's Adrienne.
Right.
I'm a veteran.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah.
So it eases it eases my anxieties, at least when it comes to trying to open up. It's like, okay, well, I'm focusing on what I'm doing, and I'm not just like staring at someone and like feel on the spot to have this
Sure.
intense conversation.
You're not staring into their eyes.
Right.
Which is intimidating by itself, to have a conversation with somebody so deep and you're staring into their eyes. But if you're sitting there doing either the Stitch and Bitch, or sometimes when I'm just BSing, I do paracord shit. I'll sit there and tie different knots or do something. It's you're working with your hands, stuff like
Well,
that.
you feel more comfortable when you're doing something. You know what I mean? And then the conversation seems more natural. And I think, and I appreciate the kind words, but I think that at the foundation of it, it's just acceptance, true acceptance, which means understanding there's going to be awkward times. It's going to be weird sometimes. Like there's going to be failure. There's going to be ups. There's going to be downs. But if you want to make veterans feel welcome, and veterans are like the most diverse group of people under one label, then you have to understand that you have to accept them. You just have to accept them no matter what. Like whatever branch you do, whatever you did, whatever you didn't do, don't give a shit. Like I feel a unity, like a kinsmanship or whatever the word is. Like you're my brother, you're my sister, because you're willing to join.
Yeah.
And because of that, we have a connection. And outside of that, I accept you for all other quirks, everything else that makes you who you are. Because in the military, we had to shed that.
Yep.
In the military, you had to be like everybody else. And that's hard. That's very suppressing. That's not who we are. That's not who people are meant to be. A lot of people are meant to be. So now we're out of the military. We have the love and the hopefully the confidence in knowing that we did something incredibly selfless in joining the military and serving our country. But we get to be ourselves now. You get to be whoever it is you are. Yeah. And so as a fellow veteran, I get to embrace you for being who you are. And we get to have the best of both worlds.
Right.
We served, but we don't got to do that dumb shit anymore. We can just hang out with each other and just accept each other for who they are. And I think the more conversations you can encourage, as awkward as they are, you got to fucking have them. Because I've had so many awkward conversations since starting VET, talking to vets about shit that I knew nothing about. The first vet that told me, she was a female veteran who told me about military sexual trauma. Holy shit. Yeah. That was an awkward conversation.
I'll tell you what.
There's an acronym for it. That's how,
Oh my God.
Like,
yeah. So,
That's crazy.
It's tough. Last question. How would you personally define courage or sacrifice in the military? Beyond combat.
Courage and sacrifice beyond combat.
Signing up.
That's literally the absolute blindly signed.
Motherfucker.
Naively.
Wow.
I like to, I think
I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that's beautiful. Okay.
Blindly playing the paper.
It's lack of better words, blindly signing up for something you absolutely have no control over and going, sure, I'll do it. And someone going, you're willing to die for that. And that's, I don't know if it's bravery, sacrifice, or just dumb, but it's a little bit of everything in that aspect. That's bravery, man, to do something, to volunteer, to run in the direction of the fire.
Yeah.
When everybody's running away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what we're doing when you sign up, whether you're in a supporting role, if you're combat, if you're whatever it is. But if it's outside of the combat, well, I'm still willing to go.
Right.
At 50 years old, I signed, and that's the weird thing, man. At 50 years old, I signed that contract. That blank check is still sitting out there.
Yeah.
I'm hoping not everybody hears this, but
Right.
I mean, if they were to call today and say, guess what? Okay,
Right.
let's get trained. Let's go. I would do it. Why?
Right.
I don't know, because I think that's one of those unfinished things in my life. I've accepted it, but I think I'd still, I mean,
Right.
because I did that. It was, but I know guys that I thought would never sign the line. That's bravery. In my case, in my opinion, it's brave to do something that you cannot control.
Yeah.
And for the ultimate, I mean, you're signing for the ultimate sacrifice. If something goes wrong and your number is called, you might not ever see anything from your life right now. I mean,
Right.
you know, I
Well,
think
and
that's
just
that's my thing.
signing up to be this person that
Sure.
does everything they're told. Like that's a whole thing of like I'm giving up my ability to make decisions
Yeah.
over anything. They scheduled my dentist appointments. I mean, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
Right.
every little thing was planned out, and I was just told do this, be there, and I think that's one of the things that is hard with the transition out. Like we were talking about earlier, is that like now you're just on your own, and you're like, wait, no one schedules my dentist appointments for me. Like
Right.
what?
Yeah. It
Yeah.
makes it a lot harder because it's all on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't have like the herd mentality because everybody was doing the same thing and made it a lot easier. But in addition to that, I think, do I think it's an act of bravery to sign up? Absolutely. But even more so, it's a bigger act of courage to fulfill your obligation, in my opinion. So if you sign up for 4 years, you do 4 years.
Yes.
You sign up for 2 years, you do 2 years. Whatever it is, I think fulfilling your obligation is also that other piece of it too.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know about you guys, I was at 30th AG, Fort Benning, Georgia, when I first got into the military, and we had guys that went AWOL.
Yep.
Like before boot camp. Like we were at 30th AG in the Army. If you go to Fort Benning, you do the in-processing first, and the place you do the in-processing is called 30th AG. So, like, they don't really fuck with you during in-processing. They're just trying to do the paperwork, give you your haircut, all that
they
dumb
give
shit.
you false hope.
They went AWOL then. So,
Don't.
like, they joined, but then they fucking left immediately.
They just needed a flight down to
Yeah. They just wanted to go to Fort
Georgia.
Benning. Yeah. But it's like,
yeah, let me get some peaches now.
but it's like, so yeah, signing up is dedicating yourself to something bigger than yourself. You're telling yourself that I don't understand fully what I'm getting into, but I know that I am being selfless and I'm trusting the government to make decisions for me,
First mistake.
and I'm going to do whatever they tell me to do.
Right. Yep.
And then you fulfill that obligation. I definitely think
No,
that's a
absolutely.
big act of bravery.
I know a kid that went down to basic training. He he didn't even make it to basic training. He was probably one of those ones that went to 30th AG
Yeah.
and then got put on a psych hold.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, you're a 30th. You didn't even make it down like to get screwed
To
with,
start boot camp.
to start boot. And I try to talk the kid through, man, try to get him through, because I'm like, you can do this. You're good. This can be great for your life because that's what you're willing to do. And then I stopped hearing from him.
Yeah.
And then we come to find out, literally, he was down there for like a week or so. So I'm like, he's not even through 30th AG at this point. I know
Right.
that.
Right.
And we hadn't heard from him. And all of our letters were being like sent back. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Come to find out he was on site cold. And I'm like, dude, you're at 30th AG, man.
Still, like maybe it was just, I wonder if it was just the anticipation
Yeah, it's what it
of
was.
everything and the anxiety from like being worried about what was going to happen,
Sure.
the fear of the unknown,
Yeah.
that he just scared, put himself into a conniption
Hey,
fit.
you know, I understand. That's
Right,
fine.
yeah.
But, you know, it's one of those things. And, I talked the kid up, and then afterwards, I hear things about him after now
Yeah.
that I'm like, oh, he wasn't the kid I thought he was.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
that was one of those, I let my guard down for him.
Yeah.
So that's one of those burning things. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm glad he didn't become a veteran. It was
Right.
because that's not somebody I want to share my
Oh, yeah.
my brotherhood with. It's weird for me. But
Well, before we deployed, I had somebody who was in our unit, and he got out of his obligation early, and he became a conscientious objector, a pacifist. And here's the thing. You were well within your right to feel that way.
Sure.
But my issue, and everyone's issue with the situation was, bro, you joined the infantry. And then when you found out a deployment was coming down the pipe, and then you became a conscientious objector. Like, just understand that while I get it, it's just like, this doesn't look good on paper.
Right. Yeah,
but like, and I didn't give him any shit for it, because if you don't want to be there, I don't want you to be there.
No way.
Like, I don't want you looking out for me if you don't want to fucking be here. If you're not willing to shoot, move, communicate, carry me, do whatever you got to do so I make it home to my family, I don't want you to be here either. You know what I mean? So like, leave. You know what I mean? Been a long time since you heard that. Huh?
Oh my gosh.
You know? If I can know it. So as far as tools and support and things like that, are there any things that you guys have done outside of what you've already discussed that helped you find some purpose post-service?
I mean, when to help me kind of get back into it, but it kind of falls in the same line. I mean, I became a firefighter. Right. And I was serving my community. Right. I did that, but that kind of helped a little bit. I had a little bit of comfort, and it helped me kind of, because I was still serving. Yeah. But I just kept in that brain. My train of thought was always, I had to serve others to feel like I even had worth. Right. And that's where I kind of struggled with until I found out I had to do things for myself. Yeah. Because unless I take care of me, I can't take care of everybody else. Yeah. Yeah. And that's where it took a long time to do that. And then, having kids helps too.
Oh, yeah. Adrienne, what do you think?
They will humble you.
Yeah.
I like to stay busy. I like to plan events with friends and check in. Yeah. Just make sure that we're not isolating, So
it's easy to do. Like, you don't intentionally. I think sometimes you don't realize that you're doing it when you start isolating yourself. You know what I mean?
So it's like, what's going on? Or it's like a funk. And it's like, I haven't been out,
seen the sunlight in like a week, and it's nice to have friends check in on you to make sure you're doing okay. Right. Do you have any other like mental health tools, like journaling, yoga, meditation, anything like that that you guys like to do?
For me, cross stitch is a meditation, so I whip those out. Like, I probably cross stitch every day.
I have. I don't know if you can see it like here. Oh, you can't, but I got your cross. I have two actually of yours in here.
I did see it one the other day.
I have that one up here.
Send it to my mom.
And then I have the one you did for my mom. Yeah. Right back there. Oh, that's bad.
Yeah. So that's kind of like a counting meditation for me.
I can see that, like a Zen garden almost, because you're just doing the same motion.
And the same motion repetitively, but it's making a pattern. And I'll throw a concert on YouTube or something, and before I know it, like, it's been a 2-hour concert, and I've been cross-stitching, and I'm like, whoa. Like,
and you can tell, and if you don't pay attention to what you're doing, you can tell. I mean, like, you'll look at it and go, oh, man, my brain was messed up right there in those lines. I've seen people. I'm like,
I'll say I'm not in the mood to cross stitch today because it's coming out in the work.
You can kind of tell that. I can see that. But I see, like, when you cross stitch, I'm like, how in the heck does that? Because I couldn't do that. There's no way. My eyes would be going cross. I'm like, no, I'd get frustrated probably.
Get super frustrated.
But mine is working out. I got back into that again. Yeah. Even if it's just getting in there and going through a workout. Then that workout becomes how many more reps can I do? How many more pounds can I do? But that actually helps me get through a lot of my stuff. And then I love going in, which it's been a while since I've done that. If I'm going in with someone that needs help, not physically, they need more mental help than they need physical.
Right.
Hey, let's go do a workout. So we're sitting there working out, and then as we're repping or whatever, we're talking. That's therapy for them. It's therapy for me, because we share not only in the workout, we're also sharing, with talking and going through things. And I kind of missed that because I was doing that for a little while, and then that kind of fell away. That was just because life got involved for everybody that was involved with it. So we're waiting to get that back together.
Yeah, very good.
I got one guy in particular that I'm gonna get a hold of him now that I know he's back in town.
Oh yeah. I know who you're talking
Absolutely.
about. Yeah, he's been challenging me. He wants to he wants to do some strongman stuff, I think, coming up.
Ooh.
Not this time, not June 1st at Triple H, but he's going to do it soon, I think. I'm really excited for that.
Cool.
But, okay, well, very good. Brad, you got anything else, buddy?
No, sir.
No?
Yes, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I mean, no. They had some pretty solid answers. I was just going to say drugs.
Drugs. Lots of drugs.
Those are
Right,
good.
how do you cope with?
Yeah.
Drugs.
Yeah, just drugs.
Just that's it.
I used to have a shirt that said "Say perhaps to drugs." And I like that. Like maybe, not always. No, it's not always no. Well, either way, Robin, Adrienne, I really appreciate you guys coming on here, talking about your experience during and after. So thank you guys very much. I really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Brad, another good episode, my friend. Always good recording with you. 172nd best mental health podcast in Cambodia, according to an email I got once. So thank you again for listening. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, share, all the things. And until next time, we hope that we helped you go from being freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional to truly being fine about being a non-combat veteran.